This is what you'd receive with our triple under counter system. These are the standard components. You get the unit itself, a 1 micron sediment filter, a KDF filter to remove chlorine, smells and tastes, and it removes a little bit of heavy metals, and an ultrafiltration membrane which blocks bacteria. Then you'd get the standard faucet, that this can be changed to other options as well. A spanner, which you might need when changing filters, a few meters of pipe, the connections for the faucet itself. There's a few different options here for mounting, from small surface area to large surface area. If you're mounting it on a soft surface like a sink, then you might want to use one of the larger surface areas. If you're mounting it on a wooden top or marble top, the smaller ones will suffice. And then just includes the little connections for the tap itself. The way you would connect these, take the piece of pipe, put the nut at the bottom of the tap over the piece of pipe first, then there's a little ferrule there in the middle which you put over the pipe, a little one to go into the pipe, squeeze everything forward, turn the pipe into the tap. Connections on the system itself, very simple. A little nut that fits onto the end, fit it over the pipe, let a few millimeters of pipe stick out, screw it into the system. The supply connector that's provided as default is 1/2 inch. There are other options available. It will require a little bit of thread sealing tape where the valve connects onto the connector. And again, here the connector's nut you just put over the pipe, push the pipe over the little fitting here, screw it in tight. That's basically all the connections for the system. What you will just need to do is place the filters into the system. Simply remove all of the housings. And then make sure to check on the top of the unit. You'll have an in and an out. The sediment filter will always be your starting point. Place that in the housing. There's a little pin to center it. Take the top bracket. A good idea to get someone just to give you a hand with this part, just to make sure that hold it steady. For all of these filters, tightening by hand should be sufficient. The next one in the middle would be the KDF filter. Again, just make sure it slides over the guiding pin at the bottom there. Screw it in place. Tighten your hands. And then finally the ultrafiltration membrane. Something to check just happened here. Make sure that all the O-rings are in place when you fit the housings, otherwise you probably will have a leak. Same thing then with the ultrafiltration membrane. Now, on the ultrafiltration membrane itself, it does require quite a tight tightening. So this is where you really want someone to give you a hand, because you want to tighten this with 2 hands until the gaps look roughly similar at the top of the housings here, and then the unit should sit. Okay, so once you've now put the filters in, connected the pipe, you can open the faucet and then start opening the valve on your supply connector to let some water flow through the system, and have a good look for any leaks. If you see any leaks, first thing to try is maybe tighten a little bit more. If you've seen leaks at fairly low pressure still while the tap is open, however, it's probably something like an O-ring that's not correctly positioned. So open that housing, check whether all the O-rings are in place, close it again. Then close the faucet and let the pressure build up and check if you've got any leaks. If you haven't got any, then you can open the faucet, and with this system, because there's an ultrafiltration cartridge as a final stage, you do want to let it flush for quite a while. Ideally, a minimum time, 15 minutes, and then you can have a look at the water. If you take a glass of water and you have sort of a little bit of an oily layer on top of the water, that's the preservative, the membranes, and that means it hasn't been flushed sufficiently. Let the system flush some more. If you get a whitish look in the water and you leave the glass and the whitish stiffness that disappears upwards, that's air bubbles, and that would be the filters agitating air out of the system. Initially, that's very common just from the filters. If it's something that stays there constantly, it can just be that your water source has a lot of air in it that going through the filter system agitates it. If that's the case, unfortunately, that will happen with any filter system. But yes, so basically then run the system for a few minutes. If everything's flushed out, you're not seeing any layer, you're not smelling anything in the water, then it's ready to use. And as simple as that, that's how you set up the system.